Today on Steelers Talk, I am ranking the only 5 quarterbacks that I think could realistically be QB1 of the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025. Now, I know number 1 on the list is going to be one that a lot of people are probably expecting. But before we get into it today, make sure you guys go ahead and give me a follow on X at Jack_Sperry. Whenever the Steelers make a decision on what they do at quarterback next year, whether it's Russell Wilson, whether it's Justin Fields, whether it's somebody else, I'm going to be instantly reacting to that on Twitter. I'm also going to be putting out a bunch of film on all these guys throughout the offseason, all that great stuff. I do a weekly Russell Wilson film study on my Twitter. You can follow me at Jack_Sperry for extensive Steelers content on there. Then also we have a Steelers Talk Instagram page. So if you're on Instagram, you want short form content from us here at Steelers Talk, you guys can find us at Steelers CS. So I'm just going to start here with the number 1 name on the list because this is the most obvious. This is the most likely by far, especially after that performance against the Cincinnati Bengals, especially the way the Steelers offense has performed since he's been in the lineup as QB1. Russell Wilson is number 1, and there's quite a bit of a gap between Russell Wilson and the rest of this list, in my opinion. And the reason for that is Russell Wilson is a perfect fit for what the Steelers are looking for right now. They want a veteran leader that can come up clutch in the fourth quarter. He's top 10 all-time in fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives in his career. And by the way, if you think that clutch factor's gone, he already has 2 potential game-winning touchdown passes this year in just 6 games, and he led the league in game-winning drives just last year with Denver. Okay, and the reason why it's a perfect fit, guys, is because you got the deep ball ability, you got the clutch ability, you got the ball protection. He's one of the best in all time in terms of interception percentage, top 10 all-time interception percentage in the league. So he takes care of the football. He's got the experience. He's seen every single defense. He can pick defenses apart. He knows when to go to his check down, knows when to go intermediate, and knows when to go deep. And I really do think that his skill set, his experience, everything he brings to the table is perfect for a Steelers team that is really in win-now mode. And they're trying to get Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, all these guys that have been with the team for a very long time, that much desired Super Bowl ring on their finger. And they hope that Russell Wilson is the guy that's going to be able to do that. But now the question is, after this season, what is it going to cost to bring Russell Wilson back? Because Russ has had a bit of a career renaissance to this point. And if he continues to put up the production that he has put up through his first 6 starts, it's going to be very difficult to get him for a discounted price, right? And there's some people that are saying Russ could make up to $35 to $40 million per season on his next contract. And it could even get higher than that if he really wants to hunt one more big contract if he keeps playing this way. However, Russ has made it abundantly clear, going back to last offseason and the way that he talks about the Steelers now, his priority is winning. The words that he used on the I Am Athlete podcast with Brandon Marshall was, I want to feel the chill of the trophy. I want to have a legacy. All right, and I think that it's certainly possible. We've seen guys like Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady take a little bit less money per season in order to get more players around him. And I think Russell Wilson acknowledges that, the great talent that's around him right now has allowed him to really do a lot of good things this year in a Steelers uniform. And I think that he might be willing to take a little bit of a discount in order to keep this roster as good as it has been this year. And I think the ideal contract, I think this is probably the most that you can expect. I'd expect it maybe more $60 million range over 2 years. But if you could get it down to $25 million per year, that's going to still give you a lot of room, about $50 million next year to use on other players in terms of free agency, in terms of trades, to really bolster this roster, get him another receiver, another weapon, something like that. Keep all of your defensive talent. Now it's going to be interesting to see what Russ does. He certainly doesn't need more money. I mean, he's made hundreds of millions of dollars in his own career, and then his wife Sierra is a global superstar. All right, so he's made more than enough money. He wants to feel the chill of the trophy, and I think because of that, he's going to stay in Pittsburgh and he's going to stay here on a discount. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comments section. What's the percent chance that Russell Wilson is this team's QB1 in 2025? Put it on a scale of 0 to 100 for me. For me, I'm going to go 95+%. I think the only thing that really keeps him away from being this team's QB1 is injury. But let me know down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, put it on a scale of 0 to 100 for me. Number 2 quarterback on my list is Justin Fields. And in the way that I could see Justin coming in here and assuming the role as this team's QB1 heading into next offseason is if he just straight up gets another opportunity, whether that be Russ stinks, whether that be Russ gets injured, and then Fields comes in and takes it. And the Steelers were 4-2 with Fields at QB1. They obviously felt very comfortable with Justin Fields because they didn't rush Russell Wilson back from his injury when he suffered that injury before week 1. They allowed Justin to have his fair shot, and he played pretty decently, and the team played pretty decently when he was in there at quarterback. He wasn't without his faults, that's for sure. Russell Wilson has definitely been better, but Justin Fields still very talented, still very young, and the team was definitely winning football games, and this team in this locker room really does respect him. So I think there's 2 ways Justin Fields could become this team's QB1 before next season. Number 1, Russ really struggles down the stretch, and then Fields comes in and starts playing a little bit better towards the end of the season. The second way is that Russell Wilson gets hurt, God forbid, this year. Russ comes back in this season and balls out, maybe even wins a playoff game. And then at that point, I think you're going with the younger talent in Justin Fields if he's putting up similar to greater production than what Russell Wilson is doing right now. And I do think that Fields most likely is going to leave this offseason. And now I hope he doesn't. I love the luxury that the Steelers have to have that Fields package. Could do some really creative stuff with him with both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields on the field that we haven't seen so far this year, but hopefully we do down the stretch. But if he gets an opportunity to play somewhere else and start or at least compete for a starting job, and there's going to be a lot of openings at quarterback next year during the offseason, and he gets that opportunity, I think he's going to jump at the chance. Now, if he doesn't get that chance, I think he does come back here to Pittsburgh, another year to learn under Russell Wilson. He gets an opportunity to play in the quote-unquote Justin Fields package. And I'm hoping that that's what ends up happening. But if I have to put money on it right now, I think a team does give him a shot to at least compete for a starting job, and he'll end up leaving Pittsburgh. So coming up here on Steelers Talk, external quarterback options. There's only 3 quarterbacks currently outside the Steelers organization that I think could be this team's QB1 in 2025. That is if Russell Wilson decides to leave. But we'll get into those here in just a second. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time, which is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for the sports, music, comedy, and theater in your area. And guys, we all know that experiencing a sporting event, especially a football game, live is unlike anything you can get from watching the game on your couch. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. If you guys haven't tried Game Time yet, and if you haven't tried Game Time Picks yet, it really does save you a bunch of time and money when you're searching for tickets for your next event. All you have to do is download the Game Time app, get into that app, find the event you want to go see, select the Game Time Picks button, and it automatically filters through their entire database of tickets for that event to find you the best prices, the best tickets, the best deals for you and your family. What I love about using the Game Time app is you get the lowest price guarantee on any ticket to any event, all in pricing so you don't get slapped with a crazy fee at checkout, and flash deals so you can get even cheaper tickets the closer you wait to the event. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time today. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. It's one word, all caps, CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. It's just for that first purchase, guys. Again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Now, I don't want this to happen. I want to preface this by saying this, but Aaron Rodgers, I do think, out of all the outside options, for future Hall of Fame quarterback, leaving an organization that it didn't work out in, like we've seen this formula before. All right, the Steelers did this just this year with Russell Wilson, right? And I feel like the Steelers, maybe in their hubris a little bit, would think that they could fix Aaron Rodgers the same way that they fixed Russell Wilson this year. Now, I'll give my reasons for why I'm skeptical of that here in just a second, but I do think out of the outside options, Aaron Rodgers might be the guy that they turn to if Russell Wilson decides to go elsewhere this offseason. Now, Rodgers will be 41 years old next year. All right, that's pretty freaking old. All right, and he's showing that age this year in New York. He's played in West Coast offenses in his entire career. Arthur Smith comes from that West Coast school of offense. And then, if Russell Wilson wants like $40-45 million a year wherever he goes next and the Steelers don't want to pay that, Rodgers would likely come much cheaper than that given the way he's played in New York. And Rodgers might have something to prove, might take a lower contract to come to Pittsburgh. But like I said, guys, I don't want this to happen. I don't care how cool Aaron Rodgers looks like in the color rush jersey here in Pittsburgh. I don't think he'd look cool throwing the football for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Plain and simply, just like he's not looking very cool throwing the ball for the New York Jets. Here's why I'm not very in favor of getting Aaron Rodgers. Number one, a lack of mobility. All right, he's 41 years old and he's coming off a recent Achilles tear. He has completely lost the ability to move outside of the pocket. All right, he still has some of that pocket mobility and a little bit of that pocket presence, but certainly not at the level that it used to be. And he used to make a big part of his living outside of the pocket, throwing on the run, doing all these things outside of the pocket and being a playmaker. That's no longer a part of his game. Number 2, the accuracy has dropped off big time. His lower body mechanics are not what they used to be. All right, I don't think he trusts his lower body to keep himself safe, and that's definitely showing up in his accuracy. Upper body mechanics is still as good as ever, but the lower body is definitely not as good. Then you look at the chemistry, and Aaron Rodgers has always been somebody that needs chemistry with his receivers. This is why the narrative around rookie receivers never being good in Green Bay when Aaron Rodgers was there was so prevalent, because it takes 2-3 years to build legitimate chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. And at this point, if he's going to a new spot, he has no chemistry with any of the receivers here in Pittsburgh, unless they bring in like a Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, and they really get the old band together again, which I'm not in favor of, by the way. It's just not going to work at all. And also, it's an extremely short-term solution. You probably get 1 year, 2 years max out of Aaron Rodgers, and then you're looking for another opportunity elsewhere. With Russell Wilson right now, if you bring him back, he says he wants to play another 5-6 years in the league. Now, can his body hold up that long? I guess time will tell. But at least with Russell Wilson, you might get a little bit more tread on the tires than Aaron Rodgers. Number 4, if the Steelers need to go and get a different quarterback outside of the building, Sam Darnold would probably be my preferred choice. I think he's playing some really good football right now in Minnesota. The last 3 games, 6 touchdowns to no interceptions, 3-0 during that time. And, Darnold has had his moments of not playing good football, putting the ball in harm's way. Generally, he's done a really good job slicing and dicing defenses, especially over the middle of the field. Now, does he benefit from Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson? 100%. But he's also done a lot of good stuff in his own right. He's still only going to be 28 years old next season, so he's still got a lot of tread on the tires. And then, like I said, if Russ drops off at the end of the year this year and, you want the more younger option, I would probably rather have Darnold than even Justin Fields at this point in their respective careers. Take a look at how Darnold has played so far this year. Very good. Very, very solid. 67.8% completion percentage, almost 250 yards per game with 23 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. And by the way, like I said, 6 touchdowns to 0 interceptions in his last 3. So he's getting better as the season goes on. Then you get Spotrac here that projects that he's going to make about a 4-year, $32.4 million per year contract next offseason. Now, with the scarcity of free agent quarterbacks next year, I think that price is actually going to go up. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he makes somewhere between $35 and $40 million, especially if he wins a playoff game there in Minnesota. So this is going to be a little bit more of an expensive option. But if you can't bring back Russell Wilson next year, Sam Darnold might be a little bit more of the pricier option, but it's the one that I would make. Then number 5, though, this is really not one I want to make, but, I could see the connection here. It was a connection last offseason. It would be another connection this year. Kirk Cousins at number 5. And the reason why he's number 5 on this list is because I think he's shot. I think he's got a noodle arm. He reminds me a lot of Matt Ryan towards the end of his career. He's going to be 37 next year. He's coming off a recent Achilles injury as well, so he has literally no mobility. Then, he has played in the West Coast offenses in his career, so maybe Arthur Smith would advocate for him, if they had to go out and get a different quarterback. But Atlanta drafted Michael Penix Jr. in the top 10 of last year's NFL draft. Kirk Cousins has not played well lately. We talk about Darnold having 6 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. With Kirk Cousins, flip it around. Last 3 games, 0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, including 4 interceptions in his last game this past week against the Los Angeles Chargers. And I do think that Kirk's days in Atlanta are super numbered with Michael Penix Jr. waiting in the wings. I wouldn't be surprised if they make that move to Michael Penix, despite the fact that Atlanta is in the middle of the NFC South divisional race right now. It's that bad for Kirk Cousins. You look at his numbers here, 67.4% completion percentage, over 250 yards per game, 17 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. But as we talked about, guys, 6 of those 13 interceptions are just in the last 3 games. He has gotten worse as the season has gone on. And I want a quarterback that's at his best come playoff time, not somebody that loses gas at the end of the year. Steelers fans know that well, with an older Big Ben running out of gas towards the end of seasons. And I really don't think Kirk Cousins would be that guy that could lead you to a Super Bowl. He's never been that guy that's had playoff success, and I don't think that he would have that here in Pittsburgh. And as we know, people give Mike Tomlin shit all the time for not winning the playoffs. Kirk is one of those guys that hasn't won the playoffs either. So I think his arm is shot. He doesn't have a good track record in the postseason. and I think the age is definitely catching up with him. I wouldn't want to bring him back, especially if you trade for him, because you look at the upcoming cap hits. If you trade for him here, $27.5 million in 2025, not bad, but then it really balloons up to $45 million per season in 26 and 27. So the only way I think the Steelers really think about it is if Atlanta cuts him, which would they do that? I don't know. There's a reason why Kirk Cousins is number 5 on this list and not number 3. But certainly an option out there, even if I think it's the less likely option for the Steelers. And if you want to trade for him, I mean, 5th-round pick, maybe, for a guy that's declining like him. I mean, he is an established starter. He still has really good mental processing. He still plays with great anticipation. He knows what he's looking at when he's looking at an NFL defense, but he just doesn't have the arm to rifle it in there anymore, and that limits the kind of throws that he can make on a week-to-week basis, especially as you get further on down the season. And for a win-now Steelers team, I just don't see Kirk Cousins being the best option for this squad. So pick a quarterback for me down there in the comments section. If Russell Wilson and Justin Fields decided to go elsewhere, what quarterback outside of the organization would you pick? Type AR for Aaron Rodgers, SD for Sam Darnold, or KC for Kirk Cousins. But Jack, what about drafting a quarterback? How about we draft somebody for the future if Justin Fields is going to go somewhere else? Well, listen, man, I'm not opposed to drafting a quarterback to see if you have something there with an aging Russell Wilson most likely being your quarterback moving forward. But I'm going to say this right now. Do not take a quarterback in round 1. You're not going to be in position to take one, and to move up for these guys, I just don't think it's worth the price tag. I have my worries about both Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders, the two guys that I think are bona fide first-rounders at this point, and I personally would rather just go another year with Russ and then take somebody on day 2 or 3 if you really want a quarterback to develop for the future. And there are some guys that I would take a look at on day 2 or day 3. Drew Aller from Penn State, he's very raw. He needs time on the bench to sit and learn, but nobody denies he's got the arm talent. He's got the arm to cut through the wind and the cold here in the AFC North, and obviously he played his college ball there in Pennsylvania, so Steelers fans will be well aware of him. Then you got Jalen Milroe, who's kind of got the Justin Fields kind of skill set where he's big, he's got the strong arm, and he can run the football. So Jalen Milroe, I think, will be more of a day 2 quarterback, not a day 1 quarterback. I'm looking at you, PFF. Take him off number 12 on your big board, by the way. He's not that good of a QB. You got Garrett Nussmeier out of LSU that has played good ball at certain points during this season, and Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers would really not like either one of those guys. Coop said I'm an idiot for putting for Ewers behind Carson Beck. But honestly, they're the same guy, all right? They're the same guy. They're both frauds. I don't like either of them. But, if you wanted to spend a 4th-round draft pick on one of them, I wouldn't be completely against that. So you be the GM. Let me know down there in the comments section, which QB, if any, would you take in the middle rounds of the NFL draft next year to sit behind and learn from Russell Wilson? For me personally, my pick is Drew Aller in the 3rd round. Would be great, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, because we got a bunch of great Steelers content coming your way all throughout Browns Week here on Steelers Talk.